Welcome to the University of Washington's Service Animals Training Program. By accessing this program, you acknowledge that you will complete this entire training module. This program is approximately 16 minutes in length. The University of Washington reserves the right to modify, add, and delete content as necessary and without notice. This training is being provided for employees including staff and academic personnel. It provides a brief explanation of the service animal policy to serve as guidance for all university personnel.
There are 3 learning outcomes for this training. 1, to become aware of university policy regarding service animals in the University of Washington community. 2, to understand guidelines for service animal access to university buildings and locations. And 3, to learn about some of the resources available to address issues and questions regarding service animals. It is the policy of the University of Washington to provide individuals with disabilities requiring the use of a service animal an equal opportunity to access university property, courses, programs, and activities. Providing access for those with disabilities is not just the law, it's the right thing to do, and service animals provide invaluable assistance to those persons with disabilities.
The policies and laws governing service animals are the same for all University of Washington locations. For the purposes of this training, service animal owners in the University of Washington community will be discussed using the following general categories. 1. Members of the public and others with business at the university, including patients in university medical facilities. 2. Students. And 3. Employees, which includes staff, academic personnel, and student employees. There may be differences in how service animals in each of these groups access university facilities. This program provides you with basic information. Please refer to the university's compliance support website for the most current information. For the purposes of this program, the owner is considered to be anyone using the service animal.
For the general public and students, their service animals are permitted in any buildings or locations where the owner is allowed, unless there are specific exceptions due to the use of the space. These limited exceptions are addressed later in this program. Service animal owners who use their animal during their employment can seek an accommodation. This will also be addressed later in this program.
An animal is defined as a service animal if it is trained to do work or perform active tasks for an individual with a disability who cannot perform the task for themselves. At the University of Washington, we must follow Washington state law, which states that any animal may act as a service animal. This is broader than federal law, which only recognizes dogs and, in some cases, miniature horses. Please note that a service animal is not required to be wearing a vest or any other markings that identify the animal as a service animal. As mentioned, service animals are trained to perform active tasks that individuals with disabilities cannot perform for themselves, such as guiding people who are blind, alerting people who are deaf to alarms and other sounds, and opening doors and picking up objects for those who face mobility challenges. They are also trained to behave properly in public places. Service animals are different than comfort or therapy animals. Therapy animals are medically necessary to provide passive comfort for a person with a disability and are not trained to perform active tasks. Therapy animals are not covered by the university's service animal policy and are not permitted the same access as a service animal. The use of a therapy animal can be requested as a disability accommodation. Check the compliance support website for more information on therapy animals. One example of a service animal is a ferret. Ferrets are typically used as a service animal to alert their owners at the onset of a seizure or provide other notifications.
Another example is a parrot, who can be trained to alert its owner at the onset of emotional anxiety by repeating words such as calm down, thus helping the owner to stay safe.
Miniature horses also serve as service animals. Miniature horses are mild-mannered, trainable, and less threatening than large dogs. But the biggest advantage is age. Miniature horses can live and work for more than 30 years. Additionally, miniature horses may serve as service animals for those of certain faiths who may not use a dog as a service animal.
University policy prohibits animals in university buildings. Service animals and service animals in training are an exception to this policy. Different laws and guidelines apply to animals in university housing and are not addressed in this program. Also, employees in healthcare settings should refer to any internal policies relating to animals, such as pet programs for patients.
You must not restrict access for a service animal if it is readily apparent that the animal is trained to do work or perform tasks for the service animal owner. For example, a dog holding a door for an individual using a wheelchair is providing assistance with access for someone with an observable mobility challenge.
If the need for the service animal is not apparent, university personnel may only ask the person using the service animal 2 questions. 1, is your service animal required because of a disability? And 2, what work or task has the animal been trained to perform for you? For example, a person may not appear to have a disability at first glance, but dogs can be trained to alert their owners to low blood sugar. Diabetic service animals have been proven to be more reliable than blood sugar monitors.
Service animal owners may respond to these questions with, yes, this service animal is required for me because of my disability, and the task the animal performs is, for example, he helps me anticipate seizures, can grasp objects for me, steadies me when I walk, or other answers. These answers provide sufficient information to confirm the animal is a service animal because they describe the task the animal performs. Therefore, the service animal must be admitted.
You may not ask for further information, such as a demonstration of the task the animal performs. Any further questions about the type of disability, how the animal's aid relates to a specific disability, for any medical documentation regarding the nature of their disability, or for a special registration, identification card, or license. The response of the owner about the status of the animal and the service it provides must be taken at face value. If you are uncertain whether an animal is a service animal, admit the owner and the animal, and then, if you have further questions, contact the ADA coordinator at adahelp@uw.edu. Another example of a service animal is a capuchin monkey. Capuchins can grasp fine objects, even play CDs for their owner.
A note about leashes. The service animal should be on a leash, harness, or other tether unless it could interfere with the service animal's safe, effective performance of work or tasks for the owner. If there is no leash, then the service animal must be under the owner's control through voice control, signals, or other effective means. You cannot deny access to a service animal simply because it is not on a leash.
Moving now to students, such as in a classroom setting. Student service animals must be allowed to go where the student may go unless there are specific exceptions due to the use of the space. These limited exceptions are addressed later in this program. The use of a service animal by a student is not an accommodation that must be approved through any designated disability services office. Students should not be required to contact any disability services office to seek approval of their service animal.
If a student arrives with an animal and you have not received communication, the inquiries you can make are limited to the 2 questions mentioned earlier. Again, these 2 questions are: 1, is your service animal required because of a disability? And 2, what work or task has the animal been trained to perform for you? No other special documentation or approvals are required.
That said, students are encouraged to contact the designated disability services office for their university location to confirm an animal's status as a service animal. This is so that the office can assist with facilitating communications with relevant personnel such as faculty, advisors, program staff, and building coordinators as necessary. If a student has sought assistance from a disability services office, you will receive a separate communication that confirms that the animal is a service animal and that describes the task the animal performs. This proactive communication reduces the burden on the student having to answer questions over and over again.
Those visitors who repeatedly access university buildings are also encouraged but not required to contact the Disability Services Office to confirm an animal's status as a service animal.
Turning to the responsibilities of the owner, The sole responsibility for controlling, keeping, feeding, toileting, and otherwise caring for any service animal rests with the owner or those assisting the owner. Owners are also responsible for ensuring that the service animal does not disturb or disrupt normal academic or administrative functions, and for appropriately cleaning up after the service animal, and service animals are expected to be housebroken. Please note that you are not permitted to additionally burden the owner of a service animal in any way because they have a service animal. For example, instructors should not require the owner to sit in a certain place in the classroom due to the service animal.
University personnel may ask service animal owners to temporarily remove their service animal in the moment when the animal constitutes an immediate risk of danger to people or property, is not under the owner's control, or is disturbing or disrupting normal administrative or academic functions. Your response will be different depending on which situation you encounter. When the animal constitutes an immediate risk of danger to people or property, call 911 for immediate assistance. Please note that animals may not be excluded because of a concern or bias that makes an assumption that a certain type of animal may be dangerous. For example, just because a service animal may be a German Shepherd or Rottweiler breed does not mean they are dangerous.
When the animal is not under the owner's control or is disturbing or disrupting normal administrative or academic routine, take the following steps. First, provide the owner with an opportunity to get the animal under control. Then, if the disruption or disturbance continues, you may ask the owner to remove the animal. An example is an animal that has been allowed to roam or a dog barking for a significant period of time, which is disruptive to a classroom. Please note, however, that a dog barking may be the service it provides to the owner, such as alerting the owner to a seizure. Therefore, the animal should only be removed if the disturbance is significant. You are encouraged to check with your supervisor for departmental policies for handling such incidents, and if there are questions, contact the ADA coordinator.
And remember, even if asked to temporarily remove the animal, the service animal owner must be offered the opportunity to return right away to the premises or immediate area without the presence of the service animal, and is to be provided with reasonable assistance at that time to participate in the university's service or program. However, you should not offer to watch or take responsibility for a service animal.
You may use your own judgment in the moment to temporarily remove an animal, but you may not, on your own, exclude a service animal or owner on an ongoing or permanent basis. In any case where a service animal presents a repeated concern, contact the ADA coordinator. The ADA coordinator is responsible for conducting the necessary assessments regarding ongoing or permanent removal of a service animal for all university locations. Depending on the seriousness of the animal's conduct, service animals may be excluded temporarily or permanently if they are found to be in violation of university policy. The service animal owner will be contacted and have an opportunity to participate in the review of whether temporary or permanent removal is appropriate.
Again, service animal owners are responsible for the conduct of their animals. Violation of this policy by owners may be referred for appropriate action in accordance with university policy. If the owner is a member of the public, the consequences may be as serious as banning. If the owner is a student or employee, the matter may be addressed through the relevant disciplinary or corrective action processes. Consult with the ADA coordinator if you believe an owner is in violation of the university policies.
As mentioned previously, service animals may be restricted from specific areas of the university depending on the area's use. Excluding a service animal from these areas would only be done if consistent with university policies and state and federal laws and regulations. Examples of restricted areas may include food preparation areas, animal research facilities and grounds, medically sensitive patient and clinic areas, or biologically sensitive or hazardous research sites.
If a service animal is restricted from certain areas, then the designated Disability Services Office can assist in evaluating other reasonable accommodations for the owner. The contact information for Disability Services Offices can be found on the Compliance Support website. Under Washington state law, there are special laws regarding access for food establishments such as restaurants. Under Washington state law and this university policy, only service animals that are dogs and in some cases miniature horses are permitted in university food establishments. At the university, this includes all restaurants and food stores that serve the general public without restriction, such as Cultivate, the Husky Den, and the District Market. Employees in these facilities should contact their supervisor regarding policies concerning service animals.
As mentioned earlier in this program, there are different laws and policies that apply to employees, including academic personnel, staff, teaching assistants, research assistants, and student employees. The approval of a service animal for the purposes of employment is similar to any other request for reasonable accommodation. Therefore, if an employee brings a service animal into the workplace, it may have already been approved as a reasonable accommodation. University personnel do not have the authority to remove another employee's service animal. If you believe the animal constitutes an immediate risk of danger to people or property, call 911. Otherwise, if you have questions or concerns about a coworker's service animal, contact your supervisor.
As a supervisor, you should be notified by Human Resources or a Disability Service Office that an employee's animal has been approved as an accommodation. If an employee brings an animal that is identified as a service animal into the workplace and you have not received a notice about this, contact the Disability Services Office or your Human Resource consultant and refer the employee to either of these offices, and allow the animal to remain that day.
Supervisors also do not have the authority to remove an employee's service animal. Supervisors who have concerns about the conduct of a service animal should contact the ADA coordinator. As always, if there is immediate danger, call 911.
Other questions relating to service animals should be directed to the ADA coordinator at adahelp@uw.edu. As a reminder, when in doubt, allow access for the animal, then contact the ADA coordinator for assistance. Additional information relating to service animals is available on the Compliance Support website. Service animal owners who have concerns about whether university employees are in compliance with university policies related to access for their service animals may contact the University Complaint Investigation and Resolution Office at uciro@uw.edu. Additional contact information for UCIRO is located on the Compliance Support website.
Finally, the University of Washington is committed to providing equality of opportunity and an environment that fosters respect for all members of the university community. Service animals provide those with disabilities a great service in accessing all that the university has to offer. You play a critical role in supporting the university's goal of providing access. This completes the training program regarding service animals at the University of Washington.